Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Revell, and here I'm working on the 64 Malibu SS sponsored by Hobby Nut Models. And this is going to be where I'm going to try and fit the 65 Chevelle Z16 chassis into it. And there's a couple of hints here looking at them as I was talking about the two bodies, how they matched up. Well, one of the things you do is just they're really close, so try and start fitting them in. But I noticed this one was tight, but the 64's simple chassis drops pretty much right in to the 65's body. So that gives me some hints right there that this is just a little bit smaller, but not by much. But when you move this stuff closer together, you can kind of see some of the gaps in the wheel areas and in the front where it sucks in a little bit more. And so some of those are kind of hints of how well this is going to fit or work, or give me ideas on where I'm going to have to trim. Because when I try and put this in this one, it's pretty tight. I can get it to line up at the moment. There we go. And once it's in there, you can see the gaps, how tight it fits the inner body. So, and where it lines up here on the chassis and everything. So before I start doing any cuts, I'm making notes here on what I'm going to remove, what I'm going to have to do. And it doesn't want to let go. There it goes. Alright, and how it mounts. So, when I put this into this one, it literally drops right in. So, that's telling me which one is a little bit tighter and areas I'm going to have to trim on, just to give me some ideas. So, check this out. Oh, there's a neat little trick for you. This is a paint mixer that Market Hobby Nut Models sent me. It's great for mixing paints. You clean it off and everything, so you got your brush paints, you need to mix them. This thing's great, or even scoop just a little bit out. This thing's cool, but it's got a nice other little feature for it. When you're trying to get this in here, this one is so tight, and I've used this before. I found this out on the Mustang. You can use this to help get the body, spread the panels apart just a little bit, and then they'll pop right in. Move that forward a little bit, and then here's the back panels. And here we are. Let's see. Get this one in here. It's a little tight, but here we go. So there we are. And so I know I got to trim some of this area right in here on both sides, maybe a little bit on here, but I definitely need to trim this off, these notches right here, get this frame and moved back. And same with the front. I need to square this up just a little bit because it overhangs, and I've got the original mounts here that I need to keep for the bumper. So there's going to be a lot of stopping and starting on this video, but I'm going to take this outside and do some of this grinding and fitting and show you the results. But these are the areas I'm going to take away first. Trim this just a little bit, get those to where it drops right in there. But and some of these mounts I'll have to remove, but it doesn't seem like it's hitting any of them. But like, I really don't need these, and I'm not going to need these because this chassis is not needing them. But, and then these pins, if I use the engine compartment, I'll have to remove these pins too, which I do plan to do, but I'm taking it a step at a time. So I'm going to take this outside, and we'll continue working on this a little bit, and I'll come right back to you. Okay, with a little over an hour's worth of grinding and everything, it gives you an idea where the wheels are laying of the suspension and the chassis fitting in there. All right, so we'll take this apart, and I'll show you how it went. So put my parts back away here. Now, I got a little bag of all the parts that I'm probably going to use from the 65 Chevelle Z16. So I threw them in here, and you know, the Revell wheel backs, but I'll probably use the AMT tires still, so I'll figure a way to adapt those. But that's another small challenge once the big challenge is finished. So there's that. I did the same thing. Here's the 64 Impala's engine and parts and radiator and a couple other parts, you know, whether or not I'll use them. But I dug out my other 65 Chevelle Z16. This one I hacked the roof off a while ago, but just to compare the chassis that's unmodified to what I did to the modified ones. So this one's going to be good for using that for the moment. So it's just a whole bunch of little things. Like I took that and squared it off and took it down so you can see right there. You know how much I did take off. Took a little bit off the sides, sanded off the Revell monogram logo off of it as well. So, but you can see how I straightened that leg out right here, thinned it a little bit, squared all this off and smoothed it out so that it will fit in there. There's a little bit of trimming that I did in here to fit the body as well, right there. I didn't do anything to the sides here, but we'll turn these around. And you can see the front too. Flatten that out, took those and flattened them up so they'll tuck right into the bumper. And then I did some reshaping right in here. As you can see, this one's a bit flatter, so I smoothed it out. I did the same on this side, but it doesn't seem like that was as necessary so far. But I haven't pulled the engine compartment out of that body yet. But with all of that little bit of trimming here and there, just trying it a little bit here, a little bit there, and now it pretty much just drops right in. All right. And you can see when I get the camera up close, it's nice and tight, gets right up in there. Wheels line up pretty nicely. I can adjust the height just a little bit. Haven't tried to fit the interior in there too much. And then you can see how it fits in the front. I narrowed that just a little bit on each side here, but not much. And you can see how it shapes and fits the wheel here. So I mean, I thinned that, reshaped that, but I thinned it on these sides on here, but that area doesn't seem like it's really necessary for this body anyway. And it's funny how one sticks out way farther than the other, but anyway. So, I mean, it's pretty much dropping in there now, going really well. So let's just see if I put the interior tub in here. I did this before, didn't do it on film before I started trimming and shaving anything. And I didn't have any issues. It dropped right in there. So I don't anticipate any issues. Yeah. Now there's huge gaps right here and here from this interior tub. So, but it's in there. So maybe I'll take some of those parts from the other Chevelle and put them in there as well, just to fill in the gaps a little bit. So there's a challenge that's coming down the pipeline there, but interior tub clears, goes right up to the thing. So plenty of clearance. I mean, plenty of clearance. So yeah, that's definitely not going to be an issue. The huge gap will be, but it'll get the firewall and the engine compartment in there. And we'll start hacking that up here. So now that I know that this is fitting nicely, I'll start working on, I'm going to remove this engine compartment from this one since I accomplished what I needed to. So we'll get that out of there and start fitting that and see how that works out. All right, after a lot more cutting and grinding and figuring out what I'm going to do, I hacked the interior tub just to get the floor. And interestingly, let me take this out. It clears. So if I keep the interior tub in there, put this in here, put that. I can glue it, but I'm not going to glue it yet. But let's get it lined up here. There we go. So interestingly, it fits in there really nicely and is underneath the unmodified 64 tub. So it's dropping right in there and squeezing right in there. Pretty cool. So move it forward, back, plenty of room. So it's kind of surprising, but it drops right in there. But this part does come a bit forward, if you see right there. And I also removed the entire engine compartment from the 65 body. So you can see here's my convertible one versus, so I completely removed it. But there's some couple of issues I'm running into with this. So let's pull this back apart. So this is fitting really nicely. But what I'm finding out is if I leave this, let's put this back in, put the interior tub back in. And the new fitting chassis back in. Okay. So that firewall works pretty good. And I do like the heater box here. Some of the details here, it's pretty flat. But if I put this in, it comes pretty far forward. So I'll have to flatten this out and get it to fit behind that firewall, which really won't be too much of a challenge. It'll fill most of that in and it'll work out pretty nicely. But I pretty much got to go straight up versus the angle that this one's at. Okay. Also keeping this firewall, which is the kit issued 64. And then this is the radiator from the 64 Impala. It pretty much drops right in there, fits really well. And then this one will fit just as nicely. It's the one from the 65. You just got to trim all this stuff off. This one fits just as well. So if you're going to buy the 64, this one, both of them will work. Matter of fact, the fan shroud, this is the fan shroud from the 65. It almost fits the 64. The only thing that prevents it is the smaller hole here. But it's fitting really well. The Impala's fan shroud really sticks out a lot farther. So I don't think that's going to work with the engine, but we're not there yet to figure that part out. But seeing that, but this stuff is fitting really nicely. But what I'm seeing here is I can cut that away, which I thought about doing. But when I put this in here, it's pretty far back. But when it lines up with this, it's a little too far forward. So that's leading me to believe that I'm going to have to shave some of this, move these forward to clear the firewall here. Probably have to remove these mounts a little bit right here. Remove those mounts. And get this to move forward just a little bit. I think I'm going to have to shave this down. But I'm thinking about not using the firewall at all. Just using the side panels and attach them to this instead. And leave this firewall alone. Now the only thing I don't like about this firewall is this right here. But I can use the master cylinder brake booster that the 65 has, but keep the rest of this firewall. And that's what I'm leaning towards doing. But I've got a little bit more test fitting and stuff to do, but trying to decide on, this, if I mock it up on here, get it all lined up, I got to figure out exactly where these go and how they line up and kind of see what's going to happen there. And then what I got to do to trim and get them to fit in these inner fenders without modifying this, because I think I'm going to leave all this alone other than remove these mounts just because they might be in the way here. So I might be able to move them forward just a little bit. Well, actually looking at it, I may not have to mess with those at all. They're just inside. And then when I put this firewall insert in here, yeah, that looks like it's really not going to be too much of an issue. Just square those up, smooth those up as much as I can, and get these inner fender wells moved forward. That battery's pretty far back, but I'll have to square that up, get the battery up against that, and see where I'm at. So I think I'm going to do that first before I remove the firewall. But I've got some contemplating to do on exactly how I'm going to do the rest of this. But the main thing, this chassis is fitting. It really didn't take much. I'm kind of surprised on. This thing fits pretty well, and as another surprise, fits underneath this interior tub. So that's another surprise. So she's shaping up and coming along. Really happy with all of that. So I just got to figure out the rest of the engine compartment. So I'll continue working on that, but we'll pause this video right here and complete this one at this point, and we'll continue on with it in another video. So I just want to, see, it's looking really good and really promising. So I'm really excited about this, but I got some more work to do on it. So you guys, I appreciate your comments. I really want to hear your thoughts on it and how well this is going. And I know a few of you want to know about using this chassis. Looks like it's going to be fairly easy. Just I'm going to figure out which solution or way I'm going to go with this part of it. But you guys, thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. Thank you to Hobby Nut Models for their support in this and everything. That I really do appreciate, Mark. And you guys, don't forget to check the link in the video description below for them. I'll put a link in for this too. I'll find it on his site and put a link to it so you guys can see what this is specifically, which has become kind of a great help when it comes to fitting this stuff. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time.